0. Hello, everybody. How you doing today? It's a new day. It's a fresh day. I hope you're up, shaking, and baking. So I always say that all the guests that come to the Powerful Podcast are stellar. They are fascinating individuals doing amazing things in their field of play. And today we have Ken and Mary, but Mary's not here at the moment. So we have Ken and Mary Okorafor. I first heard them speak at the House on the Rock conference, and they spoke a day or a week before I spoke. I sat down throughout your talk, and I was amazed.
That's amazing.
I was amazed. I was like, no. I would love to have them in the podcast to share their story. They became financially free in their 30s, so paid off their mortgage in 7 years. If you live in the UK, that's a big deal. That's a very, 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 very big deal. So, Ken, before I start the question, I just want you to tell the audience a little bit about yourself so that they have context and what brought us up to this point. Yeah.
Okay. So, hey, everybody. My name is Ken Okorafor. I'm married to Mary Okorafor, who's my wife. I've been happily married now for 13 years.
Wow.
In August this year, so 13 years. We've got 2 children who are aged 11 and 9. I was born in Nigeria. I grew up in Nigeria. I moved around, went to school, went to secondary school. I went to King's College in Nigeria, did the whole KC thing, but I didn't go to uni in Nigeria. So I left when I was 14 years old and moved to the UK and began life here in the late 90s, 1998 to be specific. And life was just like... It's not like today, basically. Life was very, very challenging, let's just put it that way. And big part of my journey in this country has been about how do I design a life that I love that's very different to what I experienced moving here. We didn't have money, we struggled economically, we struggled, as they say, with your papers in a country where you're starting, things are hard. And struggled to fit in culturally. There were many challenges. But I also saw this as a place where you could find opportunity, where you could create a life that you love, a life that isn't just the typical life, but a life where, you could create an inspiring life and one that gives you many options. I've always liked the idea of creating a life of options. So I saw education as one pathway, and I saw the idea of being entrepreneurial, being enterprising as another direction. So I worked hard for about 14, 15 years of my career, working my way in finance, basically. So I'm a chartered accountant, and I hold an MBA from Judge Business School, University of Cambridge. I did the whole education thing, worked my way up to become a chief financial officer in the venture capital business. So I have about 14 years of experience in the investment business, in the asset management business, all the way to venture capital and that sort of thing. And in that world, I saw a big wealth divide. So in my day-to-day, I deal with high net worth and super high net worth individuals who had not only tens of millions, but billions of pounds, actually. We'd raise funds, and those funds would be invested into companies and that sort of thing. But also in my real life, I saw poverty. A lot of people were living paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people are just struggling to make ends meet. Couples, when they bring their money together, it's not even enough anymore. Back many years ago, it used to be okay for one person to work and one person could look after the family. But now, couples can't really even. A lot of them struggle to kind of make things work. Lifestyle expenses are very high. There's so many things that are going in. Cost of living is very high. So I saw a big divide. And so what we wanted to do in 2017 was to begin something where I was using my lived experience to teach other people how to improve their financial lives. This thing will go on to become called The Humble Penny. In 2016, Mary and I were brainstorming I'd love to do a side hustle. What would that look like? Having done a few things before that, but using the skills I had in the investment business. And when we brainstormed, the name came up, The Humble Penny. We bought a domain in 2017. And that was where this began. It began as a blog. I was writing 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, publishing blog posts, putting it out there, try and get that
traction.
SEO going.
Yeah.
And that's literally how it started. I started getting media attention, the BBC, ITV, and all these places started inviting us to come and do radio interviews. And then in 2019, we would decide to launch a YouTube channel because we noticed that there was a trend towards people consuming video content.
Yeah.
We knew nothing about videos. I bought a camera. You can probably see it somewhere, up there. And I was doing it for learning photography as a side hustle. And my wife, Mary, was learning how to do video editing on YouTube. And this is how we started. We made one video, and today we have more than 450 videos and counting, all high quality videos helping people, all accessible for free, obviously. And then in 2020, we decided to launch a sister brand called Financial Joy Academy at financialjoyacademy.com to help at least 10,000 people to achieve financial independence in a decade. There's a membership led platform. And then what we've done has carried on essentially growing to the point where we've even, and I'm sure we'll talk about it, we've written our debut book,
Yes.
Financial Joy, which
Yes. Sunday Times bestseller, yeah.
went on to become a Sunday Times bestseller. And so many things that many people don't even see yet have happened so far. And I'm hoping we can kind of really unpack it, because I just hope that, a lot of what I'm going to share today will inspire people, because a lot of people are living lives that they might consider to be mediocre and they're not really achieving what they want. But I just think sometimes it helps to hear certain things from certain people for certain mindset shifts to happen, certain unlocking to happen for people to then, make the best of their lives, basically.
Fantastic. I always ask people, what was your trigger moment? What was the moment that triggered everything for you? And in researching you, I heard a very, very moving story. You closed from work, got on the tube or the train, you go home about 12 a.m. in the morning. It was raining. You walked into the house. In the mirror, had already slept. The kids were in bed. You went to bed. You woke up about 3 a.m. in the morning to go and pee. And you slipped. That was the critical trigger moment in your life.
So
what happened?
Do you know what? I talk about it, and that story you mentioned is what we refer to as a point of no return event in the book.
Yeah.
And there are many points of no return events. And a lot of the time in life, when you progress through your life and you're just navigating life, many things happen, but a lot of us sometimes don't pay attention. They're often a way for life to give us a signal as to what's most important. And for me, that was a big turning point, or a point of no return, because I basically had my life at risk. I'd been working and, like everybody else, trying to provide for the family, trying to progress in my career and all those things, and working all those long hours that you get when you get a six-figure salary. You suddenly, all your hours suddenly rise, and you're working even more and paying even more tax and even more everything. So anyway, what happened that day was I'd been working many long hours, sometimes 15 hours in a day. I'd start work, sometimes leave home around 7 a.m. and sometimes I wouldn't be back till around 1 a.m. the next day.
Whoa.
And it was back to back. And when you work I was working as a chief financial officer, when you do that sort of job, a lot of your work is spent, a lot of time is spent in meetings, in models, financial models, and that sort of thing, and with your team and stuff. And so a lot of things can pile up, and there's a lot that's dependent upon you. And so in that season, I've been working a lot, basically, and I'd been taking my well-being for granted. And I got home and went to use the bathroom, and basically that's the last thing I remember. I basically collapsed. We have a, like I said, ensuite bathroom, hit my head on the sink in the bathroom and fell backwards. And Mary, who was sleeping in the room, basically heard this massive bang on the floor and rushed towards me to try to gently keep me calm, because I then woke up and I was massively confused. I was like, what? I just didn't know where I was. And I actually started to shed a tear, actually, because I just felt like, why is this happening to me? And why have I been through this traumatic experience? And then the thing was, we started calling the ambulance.
Ambulance, yeah.
They
And they didn't come till like 3 hours later.
didn't show up. They actually didn't want to show up. They didn't think it was that serious.
Can you imagine?
And I was like, wait, I need to go and have a scan done to make sure I haven't had any internal bleeding or any fracturing or anything of that nature. They didn't want to come, and the reason they didn't want to come is because it's not because they didn't want to. It's just because they were inundated by
Overwhelmed.
Yeah, just overwhelmed by too many people calling. Anyway, they would eventually show up about 3 or so hours later, and I'd get seen in our living room, and then they'd take me to A&E to go and have these additional checks. But that point was another point. That was a real turning point because, I remember very clearly being in A&E and saying to myself, nah, there's something wrong with the current approach towards trying to achieve our goals.
Yeah.
It's almost as though I'm sacrificing everything to get ahead, but at the same time, at the true cost to what matters, the true cost to my health, my joy, my family life, my freedom. There's so many things that would be a true cost if I'd carried on operating
that way,
at that speed and at that level. So that was a point at which we began to really reassess things and think, well, actually, what do we want? It's not just what we want, which is the wealth, which is the financial freedom, but what do we need? What we need is the joy, it's the purpose, it's the family life, it's the time freedom, it's all those elements that we often take for granted. So we needed a balance, and this is really a key point on the journey for me.
In researching you as well, I love the way you and Mary define what financial freedom is to you from your book. And guys, I'm going to put the book in the show notes. You all have got to get the copy of the book here. It was so beautiful. Can you reiterate that? What financial... And I always like the caveat that you put. You said that, this is different for everybody.
Yeah.
It's different for everyone. So what is financial freedom to you? Because people want the money. That's why they're listening right now.
So the phrase we use is financial joy, right? So this phrase here, financial joy, and I like to explain it this way because I want people to really understand. So when I show these two words to people often say, "Oh, I've never seen those two words together."
Together, yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, there's a reason why. That's because typically we focus on the financial bit, and so the financial bit is about the journey towards financial freedom. And that's, there's a money journey that we all go through. Everything from a stage of financial dependency when we were at home with our parents and that sort of thing, all the way to us then gaining some financial flexibility and some security, and then gradually all the way towards financial independence and financial freedom. So this financial piece is about that journey. What journey are we on, and what do we need to do to achieve that journey? And that's what we hear a lot in the news, in the media, and everyone talks about it on the internet. However, we do it at the cost of the joy, which is what we need. So the financial freedom we want, everybody wants financial freedom, financial independence, but what we need is the joy. Now, what's that joy about? The joy is about making sure you are having fun on that journey. It's about making sure you're prioritizing your well-being. It's about making sure you are prioritizing what truly matters for you in small ways as you go along that journey. I'll give you an example. Every single week without fail, we make sure that we put joy at the center of our finances. When I'm planning the week, I begin with a joy. I ask myself, what would bring me joy this week in my approach to the week? Even if it's one thing, even if it's that you're going to the cinema this week, or you're going on a date, or a date night with your partner, if you've got a partner, for example, or it's that you're going out for a meal, or it's that you're planning your summer travels, or whatever. There has to be something in there that gives you a sense of, purpose, or a sense of, there's a why to all this hard work that I'm putting in for my week. And I'm not just pursuing a number for vanity's purposes, but I'm doing what I can to live my life today. Because I've had people die around me, man, Paul. Like I've had things happen. I've had people pass away in their 30s, in their 40s, in their 50s, too young.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And a lot of those people were hustling and they acquired so much. But then they passed away and left all those things. without much time for enjoying the fruits of their labor. So financial joy is a radical approach to saying, well, actually, yes, we're going to work towards financial freedom, the financial element of what we want, but we have to combine that with what we need, which is that joy. So that even if you don't reach financial freedom as quickly as you want to reach it, some people they want to get there in 10 years or 5 years, but it may take you longer. The key thing might be then that you're actually going on this journey in a way that's truly balanced, such that you give yourself the best chance of actually getting to your 70s, 80s, and still enjoying your life and enjoying your freedom. And you've not technically worked yourself into the ground, which, hardly speaking, a lot of us are doing today and don't even realize it until it's too late.
This is so powerful. This is so powerful. Speaking of financial joy, in your book for financial joy and in all your talks, you talked about how you paid off your mortgage in 7 years, right?
Yes.
What specific step do you think somebody should start taking if they want to accomplish that kind of outcome and still have joy?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
because people associate this thing with like, I would deny myself of a lot of things. I'll be suffering to get to that outcome. But what I hear you say, correct me if I'm wrong, is that while you are on the journey, you can still have joy as you get to the outcome. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you
So-
speak to that? Yeah.
Yeah, I want to speak to that. So in the book, we teach this idea of creating what we call a joyful spending plan. So typically a budget is just, how do I allocate my money? Whereas a joyful spending plan says, yes, I have certain goals, and we in the book give you percentages that you allocate to things like your stock market investments, debt payoff, and all those things. But we recommend having at least 5% of your net income every month committed to you actually doing things that you enjoy. It's a must, because even if you are somebody who's in debt right now, it's very important to have an element, and everybody's budgets are different. It's very important to have an element of your monthly income that's dedicated to enjoying your life. Because otherwise, you see, mortgage freedom, is a very desirable thing to try to achieve, or something that a lot of people ultimately want for their lives. And it requires huge sacrifices. So the very first thing I'd say in terms of steps is it needs to be a goal if you want to achieve it, because it's not something that everybody wants to achieve. Because some people say, a lot of people say to me, Ken, that's not a very financially savvy thing to do, because your money could be working elsewhere, generating returns for you. Why would you bother paying off your mortgage? What's the point of that? Those people who say those things always assume that you've paid off your mortgage and that's all you're doing. That's it. That's it. But now, about 70 to 80% of any money that comes into my life goes into expenses and mostly investments, into other assets. Yeah. So it's not just a question of, I've paid off my mortgage and then I'm doing nothing. I've just turned 40. So, I've got many opportunities in the future to do many things, including everything else we've done so far to build up investment. So the first point is it a goal you want? If it's a goal you want, you have to forget what other people are saying. Because when you go on the internet and you start to listen to so many voices, they will talk you out of your goal. The one thing we did was we said, forget everybody. Forget what they have to say. What matters is what's your goal and why does it matter for you? Yeah.
So powerful.
For me, it mattered because I wanted to create a different life. I didn't want to run this corporate life that everybody. See, a lot of people I know in corporate, hate their jobs, Paul. They hate their jobs so much, but they can't get away from those jobs. Why? Because they've got crazy expenses.
Bills, yeah.
Their mortgages are so high. Their private school fees are so high. All their lifestyle expenses are so high, and they've become prisoners of the job.
Wow.
So they can't get away from the job. And yet, those same people ask me, Ken, why did you pay off your mortgage? I mean, it's very obvious. It's very obvious, because if you want freedom, you need to let go of the shackles. Yeah? Because now I can wake up, I can lock this house up, I can go and live in another country for 6 months if I want. I can come back here, I can go somewhere else, I can decide not to work today, I can decide not to work next week. I can do what I want with my own time. I can choose my work. I can choose how I earn my income. I can choose where I earn my income. I've bought the freedom I want for my definition of financial joy. Yeah. So back to that first step. If somebody really wants to do that, they have to ask themselves, why does this matter for me?
Yeah.
And if you know what your why is, forget everybody else and focus on your why. Then the next bit is how much are you trying to pay off? We paid off about £380,000. How much are you trying to pay off? What's the debt? What's the amount of money you're trying to pay off? Yours doesn't have to be in 7 years. Yours could be in 20 years, 15 years, 12 years, whatever you can manage. The other thing worth mentioning as well is that it's not a race. By that I mean you're not comparing yourself to other people. It's very important to just focus on your own thing. Focus on the life's vision you have for yourself and your family. Yeah. And if you've got a partner, that'll be a third step. Get them on board. Sell them the vision. Rally them up. Because if you're going in this direction, you're like, oh, I'm trying to achieve these goals, and your partner's going in that direction, forget it. Nothing's going to happen.
So
because
true.
we're going to be building, they're going to be destroying.
Yeah.
We'll be fighting and arguing, and that will be it. So a key thing that helped Mary and I on our journeys is that we were united. United. I'm speaking here to couples. I know many people are single, but speaking here specifically to couples. We were united on what we wanted for our lives. So that mortgage, and bear in mind, when we were paying off the mortgage, we were still investing in stocks. We were still doing other things for our money to grow, side hustles, other things for money to grow, but making massive overpayments on our mortgage. And that meant, because if you think about it, the maths has to add up, that meant doing things that increased our income, but crucially, keeping our lifestyle simple. Because everybody wants everything at the same time. You're like, I want to increase my income, but I also want to live the life. No, that's not how it works.
There's got to be opportunity costs.
Like everybody else. There's always a cost. So you have to say, actually, what's the trade-off I'm making?
Yes.
Whilst leaving some room for you to have some fun, but what's the trade-off? You can't have everything at the same time. But paying off the mortgage we knew was for a season. We did it in our 30s. So now, in our late 30s and 40s, we're enjoying the fruits of our labor. So it was okay to trade off certain things, lifestyles, like for example, the car we drive. Like in fact, as I'm speaking to you now, I'm still looking at our car outside. It's still the same car we've had since we began this journey of...
That's what you said. That's what you said.
We still got the same lifestyle. I still don't wear flashy clothes. I still don't have expensive watches. I still drive a simple car. I still live in the same house. We still stick to our food budget. We've gotten ourselves used to a way of living. That way, think about it, Paul. Just think about it. A lot of people's struggles today come because of lifestyle. Simple. If your lifestyle was simpler, you don't need to basically spend as much of your time trying to acquire. You can afford to say, I will work 4 hours a day, 4 days a week. That's it. You can say, I mean, look, I'm saying it because that's how I live my life.
That's what you do now. That's your current reality, bro.
I'm not saying it out of theory.
I know.
I'm telling you, and people don't need to design their lives that way. They can design their lives how they want, but it has to be your design.
Well, you've paid the price, man. Because in researching you and Mary were talking about the fact that you had a £50 grocery budget for the whole week.
We did. And this
for the whole week.
For the whole week. And this is pre-COVID.
Started packing your lunches yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, so I've gone through the rabbit hole, man, digging up, man.
but the thing is, I just want people to understand, because people, when they listen to these kind of things, they might struggle to see themselves doing it.
Yeah.
But I kind of want you to just realize and realize that every pound or dollar you spend has a cost.
Come on, brother.
Yeah, there's an actual opportunity cost attached to every pound or dollar spent. Yeah. So what I'm trying to say there is and that cost is not a cost today; it's a cost in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you imagine that you might have had the option to retire. When I say retire, I mean choose what you want to do with your time. Mm-hmm. Let's say you might have had the option to do it at the age of 45. Making this up. Yeah. However, the lifestyle choices you're making today ends up kicking the can down to the age of 55 or 65, potentially. Mm-hmm. Simply by the decisions one's making today. E.g., how much debt have you taken to buy a house? A lot of people think mortgage debt is like monopoly. They think it's like monopoly money. They go and buy a house, and people are so wedded to specific areas that they borrow so much money. Yeah. And to the point where it becomes almost impossible to pay off that debt. Yeah. When debt was cheap, I mean really cheap, we've all experienced it in the last 10 years. It was nice. People borrowed however much they wanted. But now people are feeling the pain of that debt, and it's become a lot real for people. So another key to actually potentially becoming mortgage free is choosing where you live matters. Look, I could have gone and bought a house in London. My salary would have made it easily. It's affordability. It would have got X times your salary. Yeah, you can borrow 800K, 700K. But do I want to pay off 700K as a basic before interest? No. Why would I want to do that? The amount of money that we paid off was including interest.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So for people who truly want to become mortgage free, it has to be a goal. And you have to really question, like, where am I buying my home? If you already have a home somewhere, is this where I really want a forever home? Here's another question. Some people, have this thing about they live in a 3-bed.
Yeah.
They're dreaming about a 5-bed. Or they live in a 5-bed. They're dreaming about a 7-bed. Mm-hmm. Or a house that's fully detached with lots of land and what have you. Now, I get that that's some people's vision for what life they want for themselves. But the more you upgrade like that, the more expensive it becomes. You pay stamp duty, you pay more maintenance costs, you pay so many things. And a lot of that hard work, your life's energy, think about that one life you have. A lot of that energy God's giving you ends up disappearing just to keep up with that house that you keep upgrading.
And a lot of times, the reason or the people that inspired them to want to get that kind of house, they've even left their lives. So they're buying it because of their ego, because the ego is the enemy.
Oh yeah, and you don't always know, this is the thing, you don't always know other people's circumstances. You know how people compare a lot. They're like, oh, my friend has bought a 1.1 million or 1.5 million house. You need to see it. It's got swimming pool. It's got this. It's got that. It's got 7 rooms. And people compare just based on the surface level. You don't know what their net worth looks like. You don't know how much they've got value in assets or debt. You know nothing about these people. All you know is that they've bought a house and you want to keep up with them. So a lot of people, I tell you now, a lot of people, very smart people, they work for the biggest companies in the world, your Goldman Sachs and all your investment banks and all these places, Magic Circle law firms. They work in those places, Paul, because they're keeping up with
the Joneses,
expenses and everybody else. Yeah?
I see.
So people need to question, what life do I want? Forget everybody else from it. I always take the internet. You know, the internet is like a second world. This world I'm in right now, I'm in my room, I'm looking out, there's my neighbor's house. This is the real world. The internet is like an invented world. And in that world, people only show you what they want to show you. It's not a reality. Yeah? People only show you when things are going well. So you have to ask yourself, in this real world I'm in, what do I want my life to look like? Forget everybody else. And if you're clear what you want for your life, if it includes mortgage freedom, if it includes stock market investments, how much do you want in your stock market portfolio? That becomes your goal. If it includes property investments, what sort of property do you want to invest in? What strategy? What approach? Once somebody has crafted what they want their lives to look like, they will then need other people to take them on that journey. By that I mean other people who are working towards similar goals. Because this journey hasn't just happened because of Mary and I have found a way out. We've had to learn a lot from other people as well. You know, be in environments where, you know, iron is sharpening iron, and we are being inspired and taken along by others as well.
Let's zero in on that about being in an environment that inspires you. You know, your book has triggered a lot of things in a lot of people's lives, and I'm sure it has brought in a lot of opportunities into your life as well. And your book is off the back of your experiences. It's your lived experience and some of the research that you have done. I want you to speak to people turning their assets or their lived experience into an asset class for them. If you will, because that's what you're doing right now. You've got a thriving community. It's your lived experience. You've got a great book. It's your lived, but a lot of people are sitting on gold, but they don't even know.
Oh gosh. All right. So I'm going to start talking about this by talking about it from the perspective of identity. So, many years ago, if you met me and said, "Hey Ken, what do you do?" Yeah, I'd say to you, "I'm a chartered accountant." That would be my way of introducing myself. When you meet people and you ask them, "What do you do?" They say, "Oh, I'm a banker, or I'm a nurse, or I'm a like whatever doctor." Yeah. Now, the reason I started this conversation with that perspective is because a lot of us have a very narrow-minded view of the potential we have. Very narrow-minded. So I had to start to redefine who I am and how I'm presenting myself to the world. So
Yeah.
today, if you ask me, I'd say I'm a creator of value, Paul. I do many things. I'm an author, I'm a blogger, I'm a YouTuber, I'm an accountant, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a speaker, I'm a writer. There's so many things that I can do. I can do so many things. And that's because I've become over time grown to become multifaceted in different areas.
Yeah.
The reason I'm saying all this is to say that everyone who's listening right now possesses the same ability and potential. But we only define ourselves through one lens. Yeah. And it's typically the lens that we use to get paid from our employer. It's like, what do? You narrow yourself down to what you currently get paid for by somebody else. Well, you need to actually redefine what you bring to the world. Because think about it. Like, using today's technology, using the internet, for example, there's so much that one can do because a lot of what we do online is not linear. It's not like I swap 1 hour of time, so therefore I get 1 hour of money. That's not how it works at all. It's whilst I'm here on this call with you, there are many things that are going on. There are people going through our courses, there are people going through our YouTube videos, there are people going through things, there's people listening to other versions of your podcast episodes, there's things that's happening. So the point I'm trying to make is when it comes to this idea of you almost thinking of what you bring as an asset, I always think of things in two-year increments. So what I'm teaching now is what I experienced 2 years ago and before that. And what I'll be teaching in 2 years from now is what I'm learning right now. So there's always, room for me to be growing as an individual.
Yeah.
Always room for me to share what I'm learning and experiences as an individual with other people via different mediums, whether it's a YouTube channel or whether it's via blog posts or whether it's through various posts and carousels or whether it's through a book or a second book or a third book and what have you. But notice I'm doing all these things. This is the really interesting bit. With the same number of hours. I'm like, like this morning, I'll give you an example. I had a haircut, I made a few calls, I spoke to my mom, I called my dad, and then I thought, oh, I've got this podcast with Paul. I need to get back and actually do some work. So this is my first work today. Right? Notice the hours are the same, and I'll probably work until maybe 3 p.m. when I have to do school run, the pickup. So in about 3 hours. So my working day today would have been maybe 4 hours in this day. However, notice that everything I've been putting out online continues to work as a machine. Yeah. So that compounding effect continues, whether it's blog posts from 5 years ago, whether it's videos from 3 years ago, whether it's LinkedIn posts from 2 weeks ago, everything continues as a machine and continues to work.
This is so powerful.
Yeah?
This is so powerful. Wow.
Everyone needs to think of it, Apple. I don't know if you use Apple as a device, right? I've got a MacBook, right? I'm not really an Apple user, but we've got a MacBook that we use for our work. Now, there's a thing called a time machine in the MacBook, and it's a way for you to kind of see like all your backups going back in time. Yeah, think of your life like that. It's a bit like that, pretty much. Your life and your business, everything's in a time machine. So every piece of content, everything that you've ever put out or created is in a time machine and has that possibility of compounding over time and building more momentum. So everyone, even if you're in a normal job today, even if you're a nurse or a doctor or I don't know, a lawyer, or whatever you are, an accountant. Everybody has that possibility of saying, I want to create a time machine of possibilities, things that
Oh,
can compound over time, things that might not make money today, but will in 3 years' time, or in 18 months' time, or in 12 months' time from now. Everybody has the ability to do that, Paul. But what people don't know how to do is how to get started, Paul.
that's why they should join the Humble Penny community so that and read the book.
Read the
And
book.
yeah, speaking of reading the book, guys, for those of you listening to the podcast, so this is how I read the book. I read the book and I use an app called Readwise. Most people can, but they don't take notes.
Interesting.
So with Readwise, even if it's a physical book, you take a picture of the page that you are reading, it saves for you, and then you have a timeline on the app. So instead of to go through the whole book again, you just flip through. Instead of you to scroll mindlessly on TikTok, you can just be looking at humble the financial joy on all the chapters or whatever on notes that you have taken. You just speak. I know that you are a very busy guy, and I always like this conversation to be like 45 minutes, Ken, but I'm really, really enjoying this. Naval Ravikant said something very, very powerful. He said that the internet is so powerful because you can create products that the marginal cost of redistribution is zero.
Yeah.
Is zero. That's what Ken is talking about now. He doesn't need to recreate a new YouTube video. Even if that video has 1,000 views, if 1,001 person watches that video, Ken doesn't have to do anything about it. It will still be earning.
Yes.
It's so powerful. Last question for you before we begin to wrap this up. How has working in unity with your partner helped you accomplish these goals? And I want to qualify this. If you're listening to us right now, if you're not married like Ken and I, like Ken is married to his wife Mary, I've been married to Vivian now for 17 years, you know that your mind and your heart, they are also in partnerships. Mm-hmm. Because if your heart wants something and your action doesn't want it, it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. So what we want is that alignment. So Ken, how have you been able to communicate that as a family so that all of you are on the same page?
Okay.
What specific steps?
So, firstly, when we began this journey together, when Mary and I got married, we did some marriage preparation classes. That's the very first thing. And that was important for just making sure we understood who each other
is. Yes.
And like where we're at and what we want for our lives. And that's very important because if you go into a unity, a marriage situation, a long-term relationship, you need to be very clear on what you both want.
Yeah.
I know for Mary and I, one of the things we wanted outside of having a family and having a beautiful marriage was we wanted to become financially independent. Very good. Clear, very clear. And so that meant from the very beginning that we knew what our North Star goal was.
Come on now.
Ultimately wanted to get to. And better than that, we knew why we wanted that. So I guess the step one is have you, for the person listening, had a conversation with your partner about what you want? We called it our 10-year plan. Yeah, this is what we called it, our 10-year plan. And we started this plan in 2011, back when we were in Zanzibar in 2011 on a holiday, about 8 months before we got married. Now, what's interesting, Paul, is last week I was in Singapore with my wife, Mary, and we had a 4-hour meeting to create our new 10-year plan. So the old 10-year has gone by now. Our children are now age of 9 and 11. We've kind of gone past that. We've created a new 10-year plan. Now, what am I really saying here in terms of steps? What I'm saying here is you need to be good at being clear on what you want. You need to be very clear. Like, we didn't have a meeting for 30 minutes or for 20 minutes. We sat down for 4 hours. I've got this notepad here. And in this notepad, we were discussing things like this. How do you feel about our marriage? Each of us will write our answers down in our notepads and then we'll discuss. Next, how do you feel about our work? We sit down, write our answers down in our notepads. We restrict ourselves to 1 page each, just to keep some limits.
Yeah.
And then we discuss. How do you feel about our children? The same. How do you feel about our finances? the same. One by one, step by step, we'll go through. And then what is our goal for the next 10 years? What do we want for our lives, given where we are today? Yeah. So a big part of what's helped my wife and I remain in unity is effective communication.
This is so powerful. This is
Effective
deep.
communication. You see, a lot of couples don't communicate with their partners. They cohabit, they live together, they pay bills, they watch Netflix, but they don't communicate. And communication is very important. And one way we do it is to leave our home. And particularly for big things like this, we go to a different environment where we have a different routine. And that way we're able to say, okay, we're now in a space, let's talk about certain things and let's unpack certain things. And we also do small things like during the week, we have Fridays off from our work and the weekends off. And on Fridays, the exercise we do on Fridays is to go for a long walk. That's also another way in which we not only exercise, but actually communicate and talk. And I can tell you, Paul, without that unity, without that, joint effort when it comes to what we're trying to do, without any of it, none of what we do today would exist. None of the Humble Penny, none of Financial Joy Academy, none of the financial freedom, none of the mortgage freedom, none of anything will exist. And none of the joy we have in our marriage, in our parenting, I feel healthy, I feel good about my life. There's no stress, there's no arguments. All of that comes from the fact that we're united. And then the final point I want to make is we've always seen God as the foundation of
our lives.
Our lives. So for us, our relationship with God's a very, very important thing. Because otherwise you start to basically if you don't have this is a personal thing, but if I don't feel like I have this relationship with God, I wouldn't have the humility that comes with being a loving husband, being a loving parent, being a great business owner, while still remembering that, the money and all these things are not really just about me. They're about other people. They're about community. They're about family. They're about having impact in various other ways. So for me, my relationship with God plays a very, very critical role in just helping me not only respect myself but respect my wife and vice versa. So anyway.
This has been a fascinating conversation. My goodness. Whoa. Rapid fire questions and then we'll call it a wrap.
Yes. Rapid fire.
Apart from Financial Joy, what is your favorite book of finances that have changed your life?
I actually like The Richest Man in Babylon.
That's a great book.
Great book, yeah.
Okay.
Simple, but great book, yeah.
Great. Who's your creator-led business hero that you look at and say, I like the way they are running this creator-led business? Because that's the space that you're in right now.
Oh, wow. Oof. The guy who, what's his name now? Smart Passive Income.
Yes, Pat Flynn. Yeah, Pat Flynn.
Yeah,
it's great.
I really like him.
It gets it.
I like him. Yeah.
Coffee or tea?
Definitely a tea. Yeah. I say that because I quite like a mocha, but yeah, every day I'd have a tea. Yeah.
Oh wow. Mr. Ken Okorafor, thank you so much for coming on the Powerful Podcast. This has been a fascinating conversation. I hope you enjoyed yourself as well, as I did. I learned a lot.
I kind of feel like there's so much we could have talked about, but I had fun, man. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. We may have a part 2 of this because I had one conversation with a gentleman as well. It was so crazy. Everybody's asking for a part 2. So let's leave the audience wanting. If you guys come back and say, look, what? All of us have bought Ken's book and Ken and Mary's book. I'm gonna do it. So the condition for a part 2 is. So I'm going to put a link in the show notes on how you can get a copy of the book. When you buy it, take a screenshot of it and get into their DM, get into their Instagram story, tag them and say, I just got your book.
Exactly.
And then that'll be a blessing. That'll be a blessing.
At the Humble Penny on Instagram.
Yes.
Connect. There's our YouTube channel by the same name, The Humble Penny. You can also
Yeah.
follow on LinkedIn, search Ken Okorafor on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Go to DM, man. This book is going to be a life changer for people. Financial Joy, is a book we've created to literally help people go from a place where they might be living paycheck to paycheck in debt and pretty much struggling to a place where they are actually working practically over the 10 weeks of the program to achieve financial freedom. It's possible for people, and I can't wait to see people engaging with the book.
Fantastic. So guys, leave a comment, drop a comment, click on the subscribe button if you're watching this on YouTube. If it's on Spotify, click on the subscribe button, write a comment, download the Readwise app so you can take notes off the back of reading Financial Joy. That's how you will really thoroughly enjoy it. All the links are going to be on the show. Ken, I would like to just chat with you for a second while I stop the recording.